Hello and welcome back to Big Mouth. Remember, you can tag me on Twitter with any suggestions for video topics, articles, anything you want. And as well as doing that for you, I will give you a shout out. So welcome to Sunday's edition of the DCEU Daily and welcome to Superman Sunday. I think what we'll do on a Sunday, if there's no news like today, we will do a nice, relaxing Superman Sunday. It's very interesting with Superman, going back to the original, Fleischer cartoons, radio show, The Adventures of Superman with George Reeves, Superman the movie, Superman 2, Superman 3, Superboy, Superman 4, Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, Smallville, Superman Returns, Man of Steel, BVS. All those versions really are interesting because they always seem to create a divide within the fandom. Apart from Superman the movie, which seems to be universally loved. Now, I'm not saying every single Superman fan out there loves the Reeves version or loves that first Superman movie, but I think universally, more often than not, people say that's the definitive vision of Superman in live action. That John Williams' theme is the definitive music, the definitive anthem for Superman. Again, I like what Zimmer did with the Man of Steel theme, and I don't want you to misunderstand me, right? Even the Lois and Clark theme, right? I think it's awesome, even though I didn't really pay much attention to that show. I think it goes down to that show just looked really, really cheap to me, and I'm not really a fan of something that just focuses purely on romance. And also, I have very little time for, what's his name? Kane. Well, I can't even remember his bloody Dean Cain. That's his name. Now, I ain't got much time for Dean Cain, to be honest with you, just because he turned around during the time he was making that show and saying that his Clark Kent was much more relatable than Christopher Reeve's Clark Kent. I found that disappointing and disrespectful because I think there are ways you can talk. What Christopher Reeve did was very, very creative. There are people in the modern era that are very critical of the dopey, clumsy Clark Kent. And of course, there's a reason for that. So nobody knows who he is. And that really was Christopher Reeve's brainchild. It proves that Chris sat down and really thought about this. I don't want people to keep on saying, why doesn't she know who he is? Why doesn't the world know who he is? Because to us, we've seen him take the glasses off. We know he's Superman, but to them he's just a geek, he's just a nerd. He's just this clumsy oaf working in the Daily Planet. And I think Chris's idea is brilliant. Although I don't have an issue with the way Dean Cain did his Clark Kent, or Henry Cavill, by the way. He's got the glasses on. He acts very differently to Superman when he's working in BVS as Clark Kent and chasing after stories. You still wouldn't say, oh, that's Superman. And by the way, Henry's hair is a lot more curly when he's Clark Kent, so you wouldn't straight away say, oh, that's Superman. People always say it's a stupid disguise. I don't think it is a stupid disguise, right? And because the only reason we think it's a stupid disguise, I don't, by the way, I think it's genius to shove those glasses on and a suit on and, just call yourself Clark Kent, a very kind of square name. He's a square. Even Henry's Clark Kent is very square. You wouldn't know that's Superman just by looking at him. Now, of course, at the end of Man of Steel, Amy Adams, Lois Lane, knows who he is straight away. She's seen him up close. And if a few of the people in the film who did see him up close, they would recognise him. Now, it's interesting when you look at, what's her name? Jenny. Jenny didn't really see him that up close. She saw him from a distance, like kissing Lois. So she wouldn't really call him out as being Superman. So I like the disguise, and I kind of enjoying just having a nice little chat about Superman on this Superman Sunday, and this is what we're going to do today. But going back to the thing I was talking about, ever since the Reeve era, it's always been very divisive. Smallville, believe it or not, was a very divisive show. Now, I fell in love with Smallville from the first time I saw it. Really, Smallville is like telling the story of Jesus and Judas. In fact, our Miles said they were originally going to call Smallville The Trials of Clark Kent and Lex Luthor. Clark Kent really is Jesus, and I'm not really a deeply religious guy. right? And Lex Luthor in Smallville is Judas, right? It's obvious. They start off as friends. You know, Judas is Jesus' friend, his disciple at first, right? And then he betrays him for 30 pieces of silver. Now, Lex's betrayal is a bit more different. And from Lex's point of view, it's Clark who actually betrayed him by not telling him his secret. But Smallville was a very divisive show for Superman purists. Now, the reason that is because Smallville changed a few things. For example, Chloe Sullivan isn't part of the original canon. I'm glad she's there because she's an amazing character. And whatever Allison has done in her private life, right, her performance as Chloe was amazing. And she was a fantastic, wonderful addition to the show. Now, the reason Chloe was there is because at that time, Alan Miles, the showrunners of Smallville and the creators of the show, weren't allowed to bring in a real, true Lois Lane. And so Chloe was a Lois Lane substitute. And wow, wasn't she a great version of Lois, seeing that's what they were trying to do. And something else they, of course, changed. Lois Lane being part of Clark's life before he could become Superman isn't part of the canon, right? I'm not sure if it's been done in comics before. And Lex Luthor living in Smallville and being friends with Clark and knowing Clark before he becomes Superman, not to do with the canon. But in fact, in the 1960s Superboy story, Lex Luthor did meet a young Clark Kent and blamed Clark Kent, Superboy, for him having an accident with some toxins which made him lose his hair. So there is that. So it was already there. So a lot of people kind of didn't like Smallville. Not a lot of people, a few people. I think it was a handful of people. And it's like the Snyderverse. People don't like that version of Superman because they don't believe that's who Superman is. And I always say, whether you're a kind of Reeve Donnerverse fan or a Brandon Routh fan, which is the Reeveverse, by the way, or Cavill or Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum's interpretations of Clark and Lex, I think there's a space for everyone in this community. And it staggers me that there are so many arguments about these different versions. Everyone has their definitive version. Do you know what? I don't have my definitive version of Superman. I thought about this last night when I was writing a few notes to do this video, and I was thinking, as a child, the Donnerverse would have been my definitive vision, and I would never have gone back to that. I think it's very interesting when you look at Smallville, because what Smallville tries to do, it tries to honour all the versions of Superman that it can. So it really does respect the Donnerverse. Krypton on Smallville looks like it did on the Donnerverse. The Fortress of Solitude looks pretty much exactly how it did in Superman the movie and Superman 2, right? And so they paid a lot of homage to the Donnerverse. And of course, there was no Snyderverse at the time to pay a homage to. But we've discussed this before, that Snyder said he and his kids used to sit down and watch Smallville. And he even said that, you know, and Bryan Singer said this during the production of Superman Returns, that Smallville was flying the flag for Superman when nothing else was. The comics obviously were, and they did a good job. And so these, for me, there's no definitive version of Superman in live action. I absolutely love the Donnerverse. I love what Brandon Routh did. I love what Henry Cavill's doing. I love what Tom Welling, Alan Miles on Smallville did. So for me, there isn't a definitive vision of Superman. I'm actually really proud that there's these different versions. So Superman the movie is a creature of its time, right? They didn't have CGI. They couldn't have Brainiac. They had Lex Luthor, who wanted to steal land, and he wanted to create the earthquake and the missiles, and this is what he was attempting to do. It's very 1978. It's like having J.R. Ewing as the villain against Superman, right? It's a business thing. And that's fine. Now, probably that Lex Luthor hasn't aged really well. But I tell you what has aged well is Gene Hackman's performance, his humour, and it works. Now, it's interesting when you actually go, if you look at Michael Rosenbaum and Kevin Spacey's performances of Lex Luthor, I remember Bryan Singer being asked, "What is this the Gene Hackman Lex?" He said, well, it's supposed to be the Gene Hackman Lex, but Kevin did want to bring elements of what Rosenbaum was doing as Lex in Smallville, because at the time when Superman Returns was being produced and filmed, and when it was in cinemas, Smallville was still active on television. I think we've just ended season 5, was it? In fact, while Superman Returns was on, we had the whole cliffhanger with Clark throwing the crystal, and we were about to see the Fortress of Solitude rise. So it was a very exciting time to be a Superman fan during that time. Look, Smallville excited me a great deal. Smallville reinvigorated that flame I had for Superman because there was no Superman movies and there was nothing to, I suppose, remind me of my love for this character. I always went back and watched Superman the movie and Superman 2 and even 3 and 4. But Smallville kind of did a very good job of reminding you why Superman is so awesome. What I love about Smallville is he's not wearing the costume, but he's still Superman. He's not officially Superman. They don't call him Superman. He's not wearing the suit. But what he's doing is very Superman-esque. He has powers. He's very pure-hearted. He wants to do the right things. He blames himself for the meteor shower in Smallville and wonders if he was never sent to the town, maybe, Lorna, Jonathan, Martha's, everyone, Chloe's and Pete's lives would be a lot better without him. So that is very Superman. He feels that responsibility. And I like that in Cavill's performance in BVS as well. He feels very responsible for what happened in the Battle of Metropolis and the Battle of Smallville. And he wants to be there for Lois. He wants to be the hero his father, not just Jor-El, but Jonathan wanted him to become. And so he has that weighing on him. And it weighs on him heavily that, humanity hasn't totally embraced him. It's a divide, and it's interesting because there was a divide with MOS and BVS and a divide in the actual universe that Zack Snyder created about Superman. I think that's very interesting. And I think Snyder made a very important point in a video with Davey Pienaar where he said, basically, someone working on a Superman show or a Superman movie is like a comic book writer having a comic book run. You do it, then it's done, and it's somebody else's turn. It's not like you're redefining what you're doing with that character forever. It's just a run. So you either embrace that run or you don't. So I don't know why people got their knickers in a twist. So I am not a gatekeeper as such. I see things. For example, I've mentioned Crisis on Infinite Earths and what they did with Clark and how they had him not being Superman anymore and having this conscious decision to wear the blue kryptonite and stay at home with Lois and his children. I don't like that. I don't like my hero not being my hero anymore. And that's just my opinion. Maybe they'll undo it, maybe they won't, because that's not canon for me. What's canon is Clark opening that shirt and we see his Superman costume from the top at the end of Smallville. That's where the Smallville legend finished for me. Maybe that does make me a bit of a gatekeeper, and I apologise for it. But, he's either Superman or he's not. And I don't believe Clark Kent would ever give up being Superman. He wouldn't put people's lives at risk for his own personal gain and his own personal wants and needs. That's just my opinion. But yeah, there is no definitive version of Superman, I think, in live action. And we've had animated shows, and some people like the actors who've voiced Superman as well. And of course, we had, going back to the Superman radio show, which was the first kind of creative thing they did away from the comics. And that was brilliant. They created the concept of kryptonite. Superman's so all-powerful. There's only two things, actually there's three things that can hurt Superman. Magic, which I think is genius, kryptonite, and you can hurt him emotionally. And I think this is what Smallville were very, very clever about. They knew how to hurt Clark in an emotional way with his kind of narrative with Lana and Lois and the Kents and Lex and Lionel. That's how you hurt him. It hurt him to see Lana marry Lex. These are the ways you can hurt him. So a lot of people criticise Smallville for being very soapy. I never saw it as soapy. These were emotional human stories that Alan Miles constructed. I think Alan Miles always talk about season 1 and these human stories, and I think you can see it. You can see his struggle when the bent cop, I shouldn't say that, should I? I should use a different term these days. He's not very PC. The crooked cop who's using Clark's abilities to get some information from that internal affairs have got on him. And I think that is one of the episodes that really stood out. Hourglass, when we see the future of Lex Luthor standing there with the blood rain falling all over him and the meteors. It's a beautiful moment. And that's the moment where I realised that Smallville is a new era in television. Because I think the year 2000 to about 2009 to 11, that's when American linear television was at its best. And I think since then, and since streaming, I think it's taken a downturn. You know, when you talk about Alias, Lost, Smallville, 24, Prison Break Season 1, these were all pioneering shows. And Smallville, a Superman show, was part of that. And I think what I loved about Smallville the most, it created new Superman fans. I remember talking to people back then. I suppose we were talking on different kind of platforms than we are now, but I remember people saying to people, yeah, isn't it a great Superman show? And people saying, what? Smallville's about Superman? Well, I don't know much about Superman. Who's Superman in this show? What is Clark Kent? Wow. So they start reading comics, finding out more. Oh my God, he's going to become Superman. This was extremely exciting, not just for the people who didn't know that beforehand, but to me, looking at Clark Kent, looking at Tom and saying, oh my God, one day, wow, he's going to be Superman. It was so exciting. And Alan Miles and the writers really understood. They knew, look, they had a plan. And you can see that plan unfold from seasons 1 to 7. Now, when Alan Miles and Michael and John Glover and all that left, there wasn't really a plan from seasons 8 to 10. There was season arcs. We had Doomsday, we had Zod in season 9, and we had Darkseid in season 10. So there were arcs. So there was a plan, but there wasn't a thread through the seasons. Where Smallville actually had a thread through the seasons. This was the trials of Clark Kent and Lex Luthor, mixed in with a bit of teen angst with Clark and Lana, and later Lois, right? And so they knew exactly what they did. And by doing what they were doing in the first 7 seasons, they were able to tick a lot of boxes to bring in a lot of different dynamics into watching the show. I think Smallville is one of the great moments in Superman history, and you can go back and really enjoy it. But as I say, for me personally, there's no definitive version of Superman. There's a lot of people out there who gatekeep. Henry Cavill is the best Superman, fact. Brandon Routh is the best, fact. Christopher Reeve is the best, fact. Everyone has their own truths when it comes to this, and you can think whoever you think is the best Superman is the best Superman, but it doesn't mean it's universally the best version of the character. All these fandoms and versions of Superman can coexist. We as lovers of Superman can coexist together. And with this multiverse strategy from Jim Lee and Walter Hamada, we have a very exciting moment. The other day I noticed that DC officially had a picture of Cavill and Tyler Hoechlin together. Both versions of these Superman are officially, they're officially Superman at this moment in time. And I expect the third Superman to be cast for J.J. Abrams' cinematic universe as well. So we are in really exciting times. And yet, I don't have a definitive version. I love them all. I think it's an amazing character, both in comics, radio, audio, and live action. And the character has a great history. But I think right now, he's about to have an even better future. Comment down below, like, share, and subscribe. And I'll be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. See you again soon.